Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the BizApps Partner Podcast, now a part of the AIPartnerExec.com website. Gang, in this podcast, as most folks know, I get a chance to sit down with executives over at Microsoft as well as other leaders across the Microsoft partner ecosystem. Talk about three primary things. Number one, how AI continues to redefine the partner opportunity. Number two, how all of the solutions within this business applications landscape can be put to work in order to do our favorite thing, and that is number three, dazzle customers. Gang, today I am thrilled to be joined by Wade Tetsuka, as well as Kate Coffey-Bacon. They are both with USTPay. And Wade is the CEO and Kate is the SVP of Marketing and Strategy. And I think most folks are probably familiar with USTPay, but for context, they are a Microsoft fintech company, and what they do is deliver secure, tailored payment solutions that drive savings for very large companies, nonprofits, associations, and more. And Wade and I, along with Kate, got a chance to shoot the breeze a little bit when we were at the BizApps Partner Executive Summit there in Bellevue here over the summer, and I learned about the BYOP strategy from USTPay. And boy, Wade and Kate, I was kind of like, golly, tell me a little bit more and that sort of thing. You folks call this a category of one, which I'm a category designer, so I love that sort of thing. But Wade, maybe starting with you, fill us in a little bit. What makes this special?
Yeah, sure, John. Thanks a lot. And by the way, that the conference, the Biz Apps conference, was so educational about the background with AI and everything like that. And what a great event that was for an educational perspective, from an educational perspective. So John, UST Pay, yeah, you named it. We call it BYOP, bring your own processor. We try to make it a little bit relatable to people. If you drink wine or beer, right? Bring your own booze. We'll bring your own processor. So
Right.
you would think, John, that for a company that wants to accept credit card payments, right? Visa or MasterCard, just to collect payments, just to be able to uh, have their invoices paid by a credit card. So accept Visa or Master. You would think it would be really easy, right? You just, hey, call Visa or MasterCard and say, set me up with an account to be able to accept credit card payments, and boom, you're done. Well, no, it's much more complicated than that. And there's all kinds of different processors. There's all kinds of different what we call gateways or user interfaces that you use in order to accept these credit card payments. And then there's the complexity of like the data security, the security around the credit card number itself, right? So,
Yeah.
and anybody that's collecting those payments, they don't want to be responsible for that. So there's a lot of complexity, and so everybody is using different solutions to solve their issue, and that's where we said we need to have a solution on Microsoft Dynamics that allows people to choose what it is that they want to use. If they're already using a solution that they've been using for many years, I don't know, Authorize.net, CyberSource, PayPal, Stripe, whatever, why can't they just bring that into Microsoft Dynamics and turn it on and have it work? Why do they have to like switch to something different? And so love to talk more deeply about that, but that's kind of just the gist that we wanted to create a solution where people could bring their own processor. I already have a processing account that I set up. It took me a hell of a long time to get it set up,
Right.
John. I want to keep what I have. Can you just make it work in Microsoft Dynamics? And the answer is yes. That's UST Pay.
So,
So
so
that's where the category of one part comes in, right? So one of the things that Wade has set up in all areas of his business is this philosophy of category of one. And that means that we're not competing with anyone else. Our offering is so different from anything else that's out there. There's not really a sense of competition there. So it really is a category of one, from our education offering, which we'll talk about in just a little bit, to UST Pay. Nobody else in the space is doing that. We're essentially a BC connector, so we connect the end user to BC with the gateway that they're already using. So that sets us apart as category of one. So that's where that part comes in.
yeah, and so uh, go a little bit deeper on why it makes things simpler, why this approach makes things simpler, because I get the complexity. Tell me what the bits are that make the BYOP approach simpler for folks.
Okay. So maybe John, I'll give a couple of examples because that might make it the most easiest. So for example, we have one Business Central user client. Um, they came to us. They're in the business of doing they create a certain product. They manufacture a certain product that's used in the CBD industry. Okay.
That
So you
would
can
be weed
imagine.
without THC, correct? Weed without THC is CBD, just so we're all on the same page.
I like that
Okay.
jingle you got there. It's good.
Okay. So in any case, to be able to accept credit card payments for a product that's related to CBD, it's not easy to get approved for that.
Mm,
It's
Mhm.
very difficult to get approved for that. So this is a company that already had an account to be able to, they were already approved to be able to accept payments from their customers for the product that they're doing related to CBD. And it was using Braintree as the gateway. So the user interface was Braintree. And again, they already had a processing account set up so they were already approved to be able to accept credit card payments. So all we did was set them up in Business Central, connected them to their existing Braintree account, and they were up and running. So fast implementation, we call it rapid implementation.
yeah.
And for the partner, the Microsoft partner, this is great. They don't have to like wait around and for like delays, underwriting delays because hey, maybe their customer is not going to get approved for a new account. Well, we just kept them on their existing account, made sure Braintree is going to work inside of Business Central, and that's BYOP, bring your own processor. One more example, we have a client that they have operations in the US and Canada. So in Canada, it's much more common to use like a gateway called Moneris.
Yeah.
In the US, they were using a gateway called Card Connect. So they wanted to be able to use both simultaneously. But normally, what if you have two different gateways, one Moneris, one Card Connect, you have to get a different app for each
Yeah.
one, right?
Right.
Because they're different API integrations. Well, because of our one USTPay app, we just connect on the back end to Moneris or to, if it was Canadian dollar, and to Card Connect if it was US dollar. And so that's another example where they were able to bring their existing processors from Moneris and accounts from Moneris and Card Connect. We just made sure it worked in Business
So
Central.
so powerful for the customer in that environment, right? But in really both environments that you talk through, Wade, because that is making sure that their business doesn't get disrupted based on integration, right? And being able to manage those transactions, view those transactions, recognize the cash, that kind of thing for their organization.
Right.
So huge value add for that. Kate, as you and Wade work with partners on sort of representing or bringing USTPay into some of these discussions, what does that process look like? Like, how does a partner get to know USTPay a little bit better?
We have a really great couple of slides that show a traditional payment lineup, what that looks like. You know, everything you expect from just that single gateway. And then we move into the next slide that shows USTPay and how that is the connector to 120 different gateways. And I think those two use cases that Wade just gave, those are great client success stories that we have that really show and demonstrate the power of USTPay. And it really gives the product some legs and understanding. So I think between those two slides and those two stories, it's pretty clear in understanding what makes us different.
Yeah, and I think where I was kind of going with that one, Kate, a little bit is, hey, let's say I'm a systems integrator that's working with BC customers out there, and I've got now a pipeline of folks that are maybe we're used to being on Great Plains software, Dynamics GP in the past, and they're now saying, golly, there's some things that have changed. I'm going to be moving into either Business Central or Finance and Supply Chain, but maybe let's say Business Central right now. And a lot of those organizations are probably going, whoa, I got to figure out my payment strategy, right? I've got to figure out what this stuff means. Maybe I'm global, that kind of thing. So we'll have those 2 slides that we'll put into our show notes here to be able to help explain some of that. But let's say I'm one of those partners. What is my best approach in getting to know USTPay a little bit better?
I think a demo with our product to actually see, there's power in seeing, show don't just tell. So in a demo with us and our developer, Adil, will show exactly what that looks like with stacked gateways and how easy it is literally checking a box with which gateway you would need to use. That comes down to our payment expertise and helping the end user walk through that process and decide if their existing gateway is the right solution, or maybe we have another solution that would work better for them. Either way, we can accommodate both of those. But I think a demo with us is the best way for us to show. We can use the words to say it, but a demo is the best way to show the power.
Perfect. So, gang, we'll have a link to the request a demo environment there for USTPay in the show notes here if you want to tune in, get to know this a little bit better. Wade, one of the things I like about that demo approach, pardon me, as well, that Kate just talked about is, hey, if I'm a partner, I might want to bring the customer into this demo discussion with me as well, right? Because then we can really kind of unify the approach of trying to figure out the best payment strategy, and the like. Do you guys see that a fair bit?
Yes, yes. So the demo, approaching it, but with a demo so that the customer, the end user, and the partner can really see how this works in Business Central. Because at the end of the day, they're doing everything in Business Central. Like what happens on the back end, I mean, they don't really care. I mean, they want it to work, right? It's kind of the black box, and that's what we're responsible for, making sure all of that will work. But they want to be able to see that how it looks in Business Central. And uh, your question also prompted me to think about something else, John. That's very important. Is that we are only in the Microsoft Dynamics space when it comes to ERP. So many other like payment solutions, this is a very common situation that what happens is you make an integration into, let's say, NetSuite, okay? And it works really great. So then they say, well, now let's make that same integration and put it into Business Central, put it into F&O, put it into SAP, Oracle, and so now the solution, the payment solution provider is in about 7 or 8 different ERP solutions, okay? And so from a like maybe they're owned by private equity or something, or they're owned by a big processor, and this is logical to them because they want to increase their TAM, they want to increase their total addressable market. Okay, but our philosophy is that we want to do what's best for the customer. So if our solution is in other ERP solutions and we're in NetSuite, well, my expertise in NetSuite, it's not going to help the customer that's in Business Central or the partner that's in Business Central. So we focus entirely, John, on being in Microsoft Dynamics ERP and and not go into the other ERP solutions. And that works the best for the partners, the system integrators, and that works best for the end customer.
Well, because you get a depth of expertise, right? You're not in a generalist type of environment. You're in a specialist type of environment,
Yes.
and then that gives UST Pay and the partners that you'd be working with and the customers the ability to say, boy, now I've got a level of expertise from an organization that understands how my business runs because they understand how these systems run my business, right?
Yes.
That's
Yes.
such a powerful element. I think the other bit of that, you mentioned some of the security stuff, the compliance stuff, right? Those sorts of things.
Yes.
That's another kind of headache that starts to go away by utilizing UST Pay and your BYOP approach, because now those headaches that my head of compliance are worried about, my CFO is worried about, my CISO is worried about, right? Those sorts of things. All those things now start to get tampered down a little bit as opposed to being things that have to fill boardroom conversations, right? And all that type of thing, especially when you think globally.
Right. Right. And when you start talking about incorporating AI into the solution as well, right? when you're in a lot of different ERP solutions, I mean, the application of AI is going to be much different in different ERP solutions. So in order to have like a really effective application of like AI tools that are related to your product, you've got to really be an expert in the underlying ERP itself, right? Not just an expert in payments. In our case, that's our app payments. You got to be an expert in the underlying ERP as well. So, so we have to understand how our solution ties into AI that's also built into Microsoft Dynamics and Copilot. So, like things like late payment
Yeah.
predictors that Business Central has built in. We need to show how we can tie into that. Bank reconciliation is used, AI is used in bank reconciliation. So we need to show the connection between our app and how people can use bank reconciliation AI tool
Well,
for that. So
and to your point, Wade and Kate, when you look at how fast things have evolved over the last 18, 24 months, like we weren't talking about AI and bank reconciliation 18 months ago, right? Now we
right,
are. So to be able to keep pace with that level of expertise in the underlying ERP system and what
yes,
those new advances and innovations are, so that you can actually be helping the partner in some cases, but definitely the customer in all cases, be able to take advantage of those new elements that have been built in here, because golly, this pace of evolution is frenetic, right? With how fast these things are happening. What that looks like in 3 months from now, 6 months from now, 9 months from now, nobody knows because it's going so fast, right?
right,
So to be
right.
able to stay in tune with the development of that core ERP system that is
Yes,
running the business is so powerful. I love the bank reconciliation example because that's still pretty new, right? From AI being applied here in automations. Um,
yep.
the other element that I think about a lot is, in today's world, when it comes to, you know, payment processing being such a core way that people run their business, right? That's how they count on making payroll, making their numbers, doing all that type of thing. You've now got a lot more people that are involved in making those decisions
Mhm.
around what systems are going to enable this in the business. That whole kind of executive buying committee at mid-market and enterprise companies has, it's expanded, right? There's more people involved now because those systems are literally what's enabling the business to run. One of the things I dig about the BYOP approach to this, you kind of mentioned this a little bit at the beginning, Wade, and Kate, you talked about it as a category one. People get it pretty fast, right? They can actually get
Yeah,
what that means because of the cultural
yeah,
reference of BYOB, right? And that kind of thing. But also putting that into the context of reducing the complexities. Boy, that's something that people go, oh, really? You can do that? Okay, godly, I need to learn more about this. And gang, as we talked about, to learn more about it, we'll have those slides in the show notes here that you can check out. And then we'll also have a link over to request a demo with the gang over at USTPay. Now, I want to shift gears for one sec, gang, because we have a shared passion around decentralizing intelligence, right? That's been my passion for 30 plus years of being in business and running companies and all that sort of thing. And that decentralization of intelligence was one of the reasons why in Q4 of 2020 I came out of retirement. I was a crappy retiree, right? I wasn't good at it, but I came out of retirement to take over dynamic communities because I saw this kind of nucleus of beauty inside this organization of decentralizing intelligence to help people make better decisions, solve problems, just drive a level of education and training and that kind of thing that help people get the return on their investments and that kind of thing that they wanted to get.
yes.
And I've learned recently about USTeducation.org, I believe it is.
Mhm.
And maybe, Kate and Wade, you can fill me in a little bit. What can folks expect? What have you been able to do to help folks with some of that decentralization of intelligence on your side?
Go ahead, Kate.
We're looking at each other like who wants to go first. So UST Education is it is an educational platform. We host over 200 live events every year. That is specifically webinars. We do have 4 or 5 hybrid events that we host as well in a couple of different cities in the country. But these are webinars that are led by thought leaders in several different industries. We have some dynamic speakers that are on the UST education platform. We have instructors that are teaching industry non-specific topics on leadership, on growth, on culture, all different kinds of continuing education topics. All of our webinars are free to attend. They offer free CPE and CAE credits to the attendees. You just have to hang out with us, engage with us, answer questions, play with us in chat, and we send a credit on. So, you know, one of our compelling sagas, and I think this is where we align with everything that DCI is doing, is we believe that it looks like education, but what we're really doing is building community. We're bringing people together to share ideas, to network, and in that we're creating a bond in our attendees. And I feel like that's something that that what you're doing and what we're doing really shares that common goal.
I love that, Kate. And anything to add in there, Wade, to Kate's great points?
Yeah. When you said decentralizing intelligence, I think is what you said, right? I even moved my head off to the side of the screen because I was writing it down. I had to write it down. So we have a similar tagline to that. We call it democratization of professional education.
Mm-hmm.
So it comes from the kind of the same approach, and kind of what you guys are doing at DCI, this events driven type of education, and bringing people together in that fashion. On our approach is more of the virtual. We call it a conference every week, because every week there's 2 or 3 of these virtual webinars that we host. And again, we're not speaking on it. We're not the instructor. Just like at your events, you're not the instructor, right? You have all these experts that are instructing on a vast array of topics. That's the same thing as what we're doing. And with the virtual approach to it, people can be wherever they want to be, wherever they are, they can receive the education. They can be in their pajamas, you know what I mean? And in the comfort of their own home, and they can get their continuing education and professional development.
You know, getting to learn stuff and still be in your pajamas with really smart people, that's a pretty good deal, right? That's a pretty good deal. Kate, you were going to mention something there too.
Yeah, I'm sure that you've seen the same thing, John, in planning your programming. You know, the thing I didn't expect in planning programming, we reinvent our programming every single year. But what it does is we have to stay one step ahead of technology, because we have to be planning what everybody is learning. So that means we have to be ahead of the curveball, right? So that has been an unexpected benefit of planning education, and even going out and finding speakers to come and talk about things that people might be just learning for themselves. It's so brand new, and having those speakers on UST education, providing that education before it may be even available anywhere else, has been, it's fun. It has made me a very early adopter of AI. And, you know, some of my other, I kind of laugh and say I'm in tech, so I'm kind of an early adopter of some things before it's out and about. But some of my other corporate friends are just now using AI for some of the things that we've been using it for years. And that has been, for me, I don't teach much anymore, because I'm more on the planning, the back end side. That is really what gives me joy, is that planning and paving the way for learning. But it's made me have to stay a step ahead, which is really fun.
Yeah, I love those points from both of you there on this, and definitely a shared passion on, you know, democratizing professional education and training, that sort of thing. What I've always referred to as decentralizing intelligence, really kind of the same premise, right? And
yes,
the more we do that sort of thing as a community, right? I actually think that builds community, right? And I've been in the tech category for 30 years, but I've been in the building community category my whole life, right? Because I think that's what it's all about. But when you decentralize that intelligence and you do that sort of thing, all boats in the harbor get an opportunity to rise, right? They have to choose to want to rise, right? They have to choose that that's what they want to do. But the really neat part of that is those people that whose boat they choose to rise, they then want to help other people's boats rise, right? And that becomes such a special environment. Um,
Right.
Wade and
And
Kate, such a pleasure to spend some time with you here. Gang, I am wearing something that Kate gave me a while back, the bracelet, my USTPay bracelet when we were at Community Summit North America last year. Now, Kate, I have to ask, are we going to get to expect some new bracelets here this year?
You know it. You know it. So I will have UST Pay bracelets. I've also very recently, as in like Monday of this week, launched my own podcast called Coffee Talk.
Yes.
20-minute episodes every Monday morning at 8 o'clock, stories of successes, failures, what we've learned so that we can all grow together to a new place. So speakers that are scheduled to be on Coffee Talk will also be getting a Coffee Talk friendship bracelet. So you might see
Nice.
some of those out in the wild. You'll if you want a UST Pay bracelet, here's the thing, you have to find me. So find me and I'll slide one on your wrist, and then we're basically best friends forever. That's the way friendship bracelets work, right? Yeah, so it'll be a special design, something to do with some ears, I don't know, this year for Community
We're going
Summit.
to be in Orlando, so I think there
Right.
are some dots I'm connecting there. Okay, okay.
Right.
yes,
I won't spill any beans on that, but
Nope.
but
Don't spill any coffee beans, please.
now I love coffee
but
talk, playing off Kate's last name there, those sorts of things.
Yeah.
You could even create one called Bacon Talk, right?
I could.
Which is also really quite a delicious breakfast treat,
Well,
right?
our family is very affectionately known as the Breakfast Club. So, we even have notepads with Breakfast Club on it around here.
I love it. Well, listen, gang. Again, we'll be at the Gaylord Palms there in Orlando, Florida, October 19th to the 23rd. Track Kate down, maybe score one of those cool bracelets. Track Wade down and the rest of the team from UST Pay to talk about all of these really cool things that this organization is doing. I think everybody, you can tell why I was excited to have Wade and Kate join me on this discussion, because I do truly think that what UST Pay is doing here is different. It is creating a category of one, and it is delivering the type of outcomes that organizations really need today, especially as how fast things are moving, plus some great education programming. We'll also have a link to Kate's new podcast in the show notes here. Gang, thanks so much for tuning in. Wade and Kate, thanks so much for being a part of the program.
absolutely.
Thank
Thanks a
you.
lot. Thanks a lot, John.
See you next time, everybody.
We'll see you at Community Summit.